Hello, welcome to Old Nerd Reads Ka-Zar and Savage Tales. This is Savage Tales number 6. I think it's from 1974. Yep, 1974. Pretty beat up copy, but it's intact. Staples are still good, but it's, it's a 51-year-old magazine, just like I'm a 51-year-old nerd. A little beat, but sticking together. I think this is a Neil Adams cover, I believe. And in this issue, we have Brack the Barbarian story. It was pretty good. Some great Ka-Zar and Zabu versus some dinosaurs. And a fair maiden in distress. This is where Conan, Savage Sword of Conan started in these pages, I believe. I believe the first 5 issues, this is issue 6. I believe the first 5 issues starred Conan. And he was so popular that they gave him his own title, and then Ka-Zar took over this title for, I don't know, 5 or 6 issues, and then I think it was canceled. So this is the first issue of this title without Conan in it. We've got a nice front piece. Who did this? Who did the frontispiece cover? Neil Adams. Where does it tell me? Doesn't tell me who did the interior cover. Okay. Yeah, I don't see a signature on there or anything. Can't tell who this artist is. Another old nerd out there knows. Let me know in the comments. But it's a Neil Adams cover. So here's everything that's in here. We've got the Damnation Plague, which is our Ka-Zar lead story. Walk the Savage Land. This is just a text piece about how the Savage Tales Ka-Zar came about. The Sword and the Road is another text piece about John Jakes Brack the Barbarian. Jan with one N. Jan in India. An illustrated review of Jan in India. I forget what that is. We'll have to discover that when I flip to it. Then Jan of the Jungle, 2 N's. Jan in India. I think that's a 1930s comic strip reprinted in here with Al Williamson artwork, I believe. Yeah, I think that's what it is. Jan of the Jungle. No relation to Jan in India up here with 1 N. But the most fabulous jungle heroine of all. So I forget. One of these is the one I was just talking about with Al Williamson art. Dragon Seed. Marak the Merciless. He's a kind of an evil barbarian. It's a quick short story about him. Good one. And then Night of the Looter. And this is an older Ka-Zar reprint, I believe. Where's Brack the Barbarian then? Oh, right here is just an informal. Okay, I thought there was a story in here, but I think it's just a text piece. Oh, let's see. Start off with a cool black and white photo. It looks like from an old stop motion dinosaur movie from the 50s or something, 1950s. But here it gives you a little background. At the bottom of the world lies a savage land, a hidden jungle. Uncanny warmth fights back the Antarctic cold and makes a verdant paradise among the glaciers. A paradise for those strong enough, courageous enough, cunning enough to survive. Ka-Zar is all of these things, and it's basically a prehistoric jungle with dinosaurs and tribes of savages. But Ka-Zar is the blonde-haired white hero of our story. Not that you can tell that he's blonde in these black and white pages, but here he encounters this tribesman who just murdered his own father, and he's got this damnation plague that the story's titled after. And this is some really good John Buscema artwork, right? Does it say who it is? Where's it give the credits here? Story, Jerry Conway. Art, John Buscema, Tony DiZuniga. So yeah, this is some really good John Buscema artwork, but this is Jerry Conway writing the story. This is a pretty good story. A little background on our hero Ka-Zar. how he came to be a member of the jungle. His father discovered it years ago, and that's his backstory is given real quick there on a page. Or 2 pages, I guess. How he meets Zabu, his faithful friend, when he's a boy. And becomes the man Ka-Zar. But yeah. Ka-Zar takes the damnation plague stricken tribesman back to his tribe. Now he's got to go find the cure. The tribesman whose sister is watching over him. The tribesman who has the damnation plague, his sister is to watch over him. She wants to go with Ka-Zar to help find a cure for her brother. Ka-Zar tells her no and takes off. Then, of course, 2 pages later, she's been following him all along. So now he's got her tagging along. But they're stalking through the swamp. See some really great artwork. Fantastic. Like, John Buscema was really... I never gave him enough credit. I always kind of liked him, but kind of didn't at the same time. But now I really like him now. Dinosaurs and a cliffhanger. We've got Zabu versus, it looks like a Tyrannosaurus or something right there. So that's next issue. And then we have a text piece that just talks about how Ka-Zar came to take over the magazine after the departure of Conan. And here is just a text piece on Brack the Barbarian, John Jake's Barbarian novel series. Here's a map of his world, and the map's put together not by the author, but by an artist who's read all the books and just read the books from start to finish and kind of followed Brack's adventures across this land where he lives. And they made the map kind of that way because the author never really made a map. So that is an artist's imagination of what the map of Brack's land must be after reading all of the stories. Gabriel, I don't remember this character. Devil Hunter. This 74 was when The Exorcist came out, and that's when horror kind of came back in style, I guess, around this time too. So it makes sense that they'd have like an exorcist character, a priest, kind of like the priest from The Exorcist, but he's got a patch over his eye, so he's cool. And yeah, Gabriel, Devil Hunter. I don't think I've ever read any stories. There must not have been too many, but that was in a magazine called The Haunt of Horror. I'd like to find a few of those. Here's the Mego toys. I had a Spider-Man when I was a kid. I had a Mego Spider-Man. I think I had a Mego Robin as well. Now here's Jan with one N. These were a series of stories in pulp adventure books back in the day. And then here's the reprint. This is Jan of the Jungle. This is a reprint from the 1950s. But this is Al Williamson artwork. See, I came to know Al Williamson through his work on Star Wars for Marvel Comics. Like, he drew the movie adaptations of The Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi, and did a really fantastic job of getting the likeness of the actors in that comic, in his drawings. But yeah, this is just just a couple page long story about some bad hunters. And Jan is kind of like the Superman, and this blonde-haired bumbling idiot is kind of like the Lois Lane. He's a reporter in the jungle, out of his depth, always getting into trouble, and she's always got to save him. But there are these bad guys that are trying to get this giant orchid, and he ends up getting almost eaten by it. Pretty fun little 6-page story. Here's a clip from Jason and the Argonauts, the old stop motion one, Ray Harryhausen. This is one of my favorite movies. I love that movie so much. And then here is the, what was his name? Maroc the Merciless. He's like a bad barbarian. He's evil, warlord type of evil warlord type of guy. But he's looking for a wizard to get the teeth of the dragon. And this was written by Len Wein, I think. Let's see. Yeah, Len Wein and Steve Gann, who I've never heard of, is the artist. And he's pretty good. I've never heard of him before. or at least not that I remember. But he's pretty good. It's just a sword and sorcery, quick sword and sorcery tale. The dragon at the end. Had to have a dragon because that's in the name or the title. And then here's an old reprint. This is written by Stan Lee. This is an old Ka-Zar story written by Stan Lee. And John Buscema does the artwork on this as well. It doesn't say where this originally appeared, I don't think. Yeah. So I'm assuming it's a reprint. I don't know that it's a reprint, but I am assuming that it is. Or maybe it's a new story for this magazine. But it's Stan Lee, which that's what makes me think it's a reprint, because it was probably written like 10 years before this by Stan Lee with art by John Buscema. Some earlier John Buscema type artwork. So this would be just John Buscema, no inker. And he kind of leaves it kind of Joe Kubert looking, really, like kind of light on the inks. Looks more like just darker pencil lines than it does inks. But this is a fun story. This guy builds a tank, and he's heading into the middle of the jungle where he's heard of Ka-Zar's stash of vibranium, the enchanted metal or whatever it is, that's only down here in the Savage Land. And he's coming down to get it with his tank. And he's got this gang of beast men to help him. And Ka-Zar tries to stop him, and he sicks his beast men tribe on him. So Ka-Zar's got to fight all of them off. Look at this drawing. That's fantastic. But this crazy guy with a tank, he's got a wife who's basically no good. She's going to go out, and she doesn't want her husband. She doesn't think he's a real man, but she's going to go out and seduce Ka-Zar out in the jungle. Almost gets herself eaten by a giant snake. Zabu has to fight off the snake after Ka-Zar saves her. She tries to sweet talk him, and he gives a little bit of his backstory about living back in the city and how he hated it. And he realizes she's just a user. Tells her to beat it because he's got a harem of women in this waterfall. He doesn't need this you know what. But she, of course, has a poison ring, and she gets him with it, knocks him out. And she goes back to her tank where her husband is asleep, and she empties out his pistol. Now remember that, because that's going to be important later. She wakes him up, says she's found the vibranium, blah, blah, blah. So they get to this big jungle compound where Ka-Zar has his vibranium hidden. And they're about to bust through. The 8 men attack. But then Ka-Zar's like, you want it? Here it is. He opens up the door, and the vibranium, which is, I think, is it a meteorite? It makes it, what it does, the reason he has to keep it hidden is because what it does is it like melts anything made out of metal or anything man-made, just melts it. So the guy's big tank melted, gone, vanished. And so now, since the beast men kind of followed him because he was the god of the tank, the god of the machine, they see the machine's gone, so now they're going to turn on him. They go after his girlfriend. She goes running off. He grabs his pistol. Remember what happened to his pistol earlier. He goes off to save her from the beast men. We hear some gunshots, and Ka-Zar runs out to discover that she's been killed by the beast men, and she's naked, so that implies something else as well, probably. But he says, oh, my shots failed her. It was like I was firing blanks, so she basically got herself killed. That's her karma for being a bad person. And he buries her, and he goes home. Ka-Zar says, you came here as a weakling, now you go home as a man, because he had to go through all that. And it's got this cool last panel at the end, carved in the rock. Yeah, that was a fun story. I've never really dug into Stan Lee's storytelling that much. A lot of the stuff that he wrote came out way before me, and anything that I read that he wrote during my time collecting and reading, he just kind of came back, and it was kind of like a one-off here and there. So I never really got into his writing, his storytelling. But this is a very good short story, I think, for coming out in the 60s from Stan Lee. Nothing against him, just it was quite good, I thought. I'd like to get one of these haunting records with all the spooky sounds on it. Just put it on your record player and let it play. And it's got like thunderstorm, creaky doors, creaky floorboards, screams, stuff like that. Master of Kung Fu. These are models. Planet of the Apes, dinosaurs, the classic monsters, model kits. Kung Fu lessons. Buy a record, and the Kung Fu lessons are on the record. Here's a really great advertisement for all their new monster magazines. That's Alfredo Alcala artwork. Really cool. Really cool drawing. But that's all the monsters, the zombie, Dracula, Flash Gordon, Conan, Frankenstein, the Wolfman, werewolf, whatever. Here's Ka-Zar, the next issue with Ka-Zar, Brak the Barbarian. Monster Magazine, Crazy Magazine, Savage Tales, Deadly Hands of Kung Fu, Vault of Horror, Monster Madness. FDR sat here. These are very special people. All the circus freaks from back then. You get a book about it. Olympic sell greeting cards for prizes. I did that a couple of years. And you can be as happy as this guy after you get a LaSalle Extension University degree in any of these fascinating careers. Yeah, that's Ka-Zar, his first issue in Savage Tales, 1974. That was a very good one. I'd like to find some more of those. I have a bunch of the Savage Sword of Conan and some early... Do I have the first 5 of these? I can't remember now. I got to dig through my stuff and find out. But yeah, that was good. I wouldn't mind finding the ones after this, but I'm not in any big hurry to find it. But anyway, yeah, if this kind of thing sounds cool to you, you can subscribe. Also, I'm going through my Marvel Comics and reading them in order and putting out a video. So I've got a video series on this channel as well called Old Nerd Reads His Marvel Comics in Order. If that all sounds good to you at all, well, give me a subscribe. Share this with somebody who might like it. Give me a like and comment with anything I missed or anything you know about this that I didn't mention. And other than that, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.